Okay, this is Fit as a Fiddle Plus. I am Kathy Benner, and I'm coming to you today from Canal, Winchester, Ohio. And we're always talking about ways to be more healthy and to actually just live a better life and help each other. So this call today is so that we can help each other be more healthy and do that. So um, I have an academy called the Kathy Benner International Academy, and you can find me at kathybenner.com. And I will put that in the chat for those of you that are in our audience today so that you can see that. And Kimberly and Rita, if you want to put something in the chat, make sure that it says to everyone so that everyone in our audience can see it. And so my website is under kathybenner.com, and you can find all of our replays there. You can see all of the folks that we've talked to in the past. And if any of you that are in the audience have anything that you'd like to comment or ask, you can put that in the chat. And as the panelist, we'll be able to see that. So I'm now going to turn it over to Rita, and I'm going to let Rita tell you a little bit about who she is and what it is that she does. And then we're going to get a chance to talk with Kimberly. So Rita, over to you.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to have you all here and looking forward to today's conversation. My name is Rita Brewer. I've been a PA practicing medicine and surgical specialties for over 33 years. But I got tired of watching people just continue to be sick. No matter how much work I do, people are still sick and not getting better. So the epidemic of obesity and diabetes in America is just astronomical and keeps climbing. So I decided to pivot away from the medical model and focus on coaching people to actually reverse their diabetes, because most people don't know that type 2 diabetes is actually a preventable and reversible condition. So now I dedicate my time to coaching people to getting healthy and being able to reduce as many prescriptions as possible. So I'm passionate about all things health and wellness. I'm lifestyle, obesity, functional medicine practitioner, but I especially love working with type 2 diabetics and helping them reverse their metabolic dysfunction. So yeah, I'm excited to get to know Kimberly.
How exciting. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Rita. Rita is my co-host, my co-mod. And again, you can go to kathybenner.com and listen to all of our replays, and you will see that, you know, all of everything that she has is there as well. We see some folks raising their hands, but if you have a comment, please make it in the chat. And so, Kimberly, I'm going to tell our folks a little bit about you. Thank you so much for being here today. Kimberly brings over 15 years experience in working in mental health and substance use disorder field for the government and nonprofit sector. Kimberly has worked as a substance use provider network contract manager and has written and managed over 15.7 million in healthcare contracts for a publicly managed care organization in Western North Carolina. Wow, that's a lot. That's a big number. Kimberly worked closely with substance use providers to ensure that those who are uninsured and underinsured have access to quality health care. Now, through her professional experience as a certified alcohol and drug counselor, a certified peer support specialist, and her own personal journey of addiction and recovery, she developed a desire to help transform how the world sees and understands mental health and substance use disorder. Kimberly believes these components can be best achieved through education and having honest conversations about prevention and intervention. So, Kimberly, thank you so much for being here. So,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, give us a little bit of your backstory.
Well, first, thank you for having me. It's been a long time coming. I think our first conversation was sometime in last year. So it is good to finally be able to connect. But in these conversations, I always start out with, I am a Black woman who is in long-term recovery from a substance use disorder. On April 20th of this year, I will have a coveted 7 years of recovery from an alcohol addiction. So that is pretty exciting. And because of my recovery, I get to show up as my best self every day. I get to show up as a daughter. I get to show up as a colleague and friend. I'm committed to sharing my story by living in my truth and committed to changing how we see and understand substance use disorder.
I really appreciate you being here. Now, for those of you that are just as panelists, only you can see what's going on in the chat. So that is not public, by the way, just so you know. What do you think is a big misconception about long-term recovery?
Oh my goodness, there's so many misconceptions. At least in my experience, I think one of the first things I thought that was when I stopped drinking, that I would, everything was going to be sunshine and rainbows, but life still lives. You know, things still happen in life that you have to kind of address and face head on. Misconceptions is thinking that life would be boring in sobriety. That's not true. Another misconception is that you're cured. You're cured, or and this again, this is a personal experience, that once you stop drinking for a long extended period of time, that you can safely go back and enter into a similar lifestyle, but in moderation. And in my experience, that just doesn't work. Doesn't work. So
Wow.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've really had some struggles along the way in your own personal journey.
Yeah.
What strategies have been most effective for you in maintaining your recovery?
Strategies, I would say making sure that I have a strong village around me. That's extremely important. People around you who are willing to hold you accountable. People who are comfortable having the, I know it sounds so cliche, the uncomfortable conversations. My faith has played a huge role in my recovery. Also, like, you know, the small things, like recognizing that, you know, it's important for me to pay attention to when these trauma triggers come up, right? Like recognizing, you know, being able to recognize that it is a trigger from trauma, and that you can also work through it, right? And then there's treatment. Some people choose to take medication. Some people choose to not do so. I choose to take medication. I also choose to, is working out. That helps me tremendously with my anxiety. So I have a few tools in the box to kind of help me navigate these spaces when things can get a little tough at times.
Now, how has your perspective on life changed since your recovery? Do you look at things differently these days?
Yeah, I did. I did, and I do. Before I had this notion that, you know, I was the only person experiencing this. It was this thing that they say in the rooms, in the AA rooms, it's like you're terminally unique. But I know now that I'm not alone. That I've recognized the importance of community and support, and that I do need people. There was some point in my life, I think, when I was, you know, in active addiction, where I just kind of felt like, you know, I don't need anyone. I can do this on my own. And, you know, that sense has changed. You know, you learn, especially through my experiences and at my age, is that we do need each other, and the importance of community has been extremely impactful in my recovery, for sure.
Can you share some of those milestones and achievements that you're proud of in your journey?
Yeah, you know, I already said I got 7 years coming up on April 20th.
Okay, 7 years. That's good.
Yep, 7 years coming up on
Yep.
in April. My mother passed in April 2017, and before she passed, I promised her that I would get my life back on track. And she passed on the 4th. Her homegoing was on the 8th of April. And I ended up completing treatment. I went to a 1-year therapeutic community to kind of get everything back so I can get back centered. And the actual ceremony was on a year from the day of her homegoing. So, you know, having that moment coming full circle, getting my certification as an alcohol and drug counselor, peer support specialist, a master's in public administration. So just so many different milestones. I mean,
You
even
have
those are
worked,
big ones, but the small ones are like waking up and remembering what you did yesterday. You know what
yeah,
I
you've
mean? Like,
worked very hard though.
yeah,
My
Yes.
goodness, you
yeah,
really covered some territory.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we
yeah.
all know someone who is struggling. I know I do. I mean, oftentimes we have somebody in the family, um, but even if
Yeah.
we don't, there's, you know, there's always folks that we know that are struggling, that are in the process of recovery. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting their recovery journey?
Oh my goodness. Again, I don't want to seem so hokey, but you know, it's just one day at a time, you know, like just one day at a time. And sometimes the pain had gotten so great, I might have to break it down to 1 hour at a time or a minute at a time. I mean, because, you know, there's so much stuff that had happened to me that just had not been addressed. And so, you know, my advice would be to, again, one day at a time, get you it's about quality these days. You know, when I was in active addiction, it was about being on every scene and having a bunch of friends, but get you a quality group of people, and a group is more than one person. So two people could be a group. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so it's, you know, get you some solid people um, around you, and um, follow your, for me, I think you just really have to be protective of your circle, the people that you allow in. You cannot go to old places that you used to go to.
Right.
I made that mistake the first time around when I had 5 years of recovery under my belt, and I wanted to show people what I had done and what I had accomplished. And yeah, you know, we have the saying too, you keep going to the barbershop, you're going to end up getting a haircut. Like, no, the same places, people, and things, leave that alone. And it's not in a way to, you know, I'm not saying you should walk around living in fear, but you kind of want to respect the disease of addiction. I mean, it's cunning. You know, it's cunning, it's baffling, and you know, that was nothing but ego for me. Why do I want to go around these same people and let them know that I'm okay? You know what I mean? That I'm, you know, these same people who, you know, contributed to, you know, played a role in my addiction. So yeah, that would be the advice. One day at a time. Make sure you got a tight circle, a quality circle of people who are going to hold you accountable. That
Was it
is,
was it hard to break away early on? I mean, when you're first starting that whole you know, addiction journey, gosh, was it just hard to maybe not go around some of those? I mean, that was your world, that was your life, those were your friends. Is,
and that's,
isn't that
I think,
tough?
well, not really, because what happened was my real friends are my friends who are my friends now.
Okay.
And so for me, when I was drinking in an active addiction, I veered away from my friends to go towards another group of people who wanted to party just like I wanted to party. And so, you know, that was, and not only did they want to party like I wanted to party, but some of them actually were social drinkers or
Ah,
social, you know what I mean? I was not, you know what I mean? And so my friends, my real friends, would be counting drinks. And I didn't have time for that. Like if I was going out, I wanted to drink and drink. And, you
okay.
know, yeah, I didn't have time for people counting my, you know, how many drinks I was having. And so I kind of veered and got my own circle of friends. And so now, not everybody was cool, but you know, I have my real friends now. So it wasn't the first time, like I said, I wanted to go back to those old places and say, hey, I'm back. You haven't seen me in 5 years. Look now.
Mhm.
And so now, no, not so much. It's not hard. I'm not missing anything. It's not. It's kind of like I just recently did a social media fast, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna miss this. And you don't miss it. Like you just don't miss it. You don't miss it at all. So, but no, it wasn't hard for me the second time around because yeah, it wasn't hard the second time around.
Well, and I know, gosh, I mean, I don't have, the whole addiction thing as far, as alcohol or drugs, but, I talk with Rita on a regular basis and I'm addicted to sugar.
Mhm.
And I know that's not, I mean, it's not the same thing. I get that. So I'm not trying to minimize what you've gone through. So don't misunderstand me, but even something as simple as that, I struggle so much because it's so easy to get triggered. I mean, it's so easy to go somewhere and all of a sudden, it's like, well, I thought I made a decision. So how do you handle those triggers or the challenging situations? How do you overcome that?
Well, for me right now, like I don't have the desire to drink, right? That doesn't happen. And that's one of those things that like once you stop drinking, that's when the real work comes,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
so, it's the behaviors that kind of come along with it, like the, maybe I might have a quick temper or I might have I'm trying to think of some other things that might come up that
Mhm.
um I could be not a victim, but I can sometimes look too far into something and go all the way to the moon with it, right? I mean, what I see might be really what I see, but it's not, sometimes it's not coming from a rational place, or
Mhm.
um, something might happen at work. And I can give you an example because I didn't really go too much into my childhood, but
Okay.
something at work might happen. And I feel like my boss may not have, or my director didn't stand up or
Okay.
explain himself or explain something, explain the work that I've done, or maybe he didn't explain to me. And for me, that will quickly process as, oh my God, you're not protecting me. Like, why did you not explain this in the way that you should have? And why, that type of that would be a trigger for me. That would be a trigger because I'm feeling like, okay, oh my God, I'm this Black woman and I'm in this organization and you're not explaining my role correctly, and you're not, or you didn't give me enough information for me to do my role properly. Like, are you trying to sabotage? Like, it can go all the way there, right? And
Right. Right.
so for me, that trigger goes back to my childhood when my
Okay.
parents would be fighting and, just not feeling safe, like not feeling safe and not feeling protected. And so that will go there. And so that's why it's key to have, even though I'm in this field and my friends are licensed clinicians, and and then I have but you still have to, my friends know this, so I can have this conversation with them and they're like, okay, hold on, let me just tell you what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing you say is this, and then they list the facts, right? And for me, it's being able to, so I feel like I've walked around the mountain to answer this question,
No, no,
is
this is
that
great.
when I'm triggered, I'm able to walk through the situation and kind of get to where it is that, you know what I mean, that what I'm feeling. And it doesn't negate, like he may not be protecting me or what have you. But the real issue is that trigger from, it goes back to childhood. And so now
Okay.
having the ability and the tools to kind of walk through something like that. And that's an extreme case. It's the first thing that came to my mind, but that's how I'm able to walk through things. I think about things before I speak. Um, I lead with kindness. I listen to understand. Um, so those things. Yeah. When I get triggered, I have these tools to make sure that I'm able to kind of get through the process, and so I don't start spiraling or anything.
Do you have a specific system or a specific community that plays a significant role in your recovery?
For sure. Yeah, the AA, that was a pretty huge, I don't attend the meetings as much now, but AA and NA, they were those two groups, but specifically AA was a huge foundation for my recovery. It was in that community where I was able to kind of see again, it goes back to, as an only child, I'm like, I'm not alone. There's a community of people here that have gone through similar things, who can see and hear me, can guide me, in ways where maybe someone who has not experienced, this type of addiction can. So that community, again, my friends, I can't speak enough about the importance of, community, really. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering too, Kimberly, I mean, most people know, and my, background knowledge is, the first place to go is to an AA meeting when people decide that they're ready to, have some intervention or support. Would you recommend the same, or are there any other newer things that have changed through the years that would be a better place for people to start? What do you recommend?
There's so many different, there's so many different groups. I think there's another group called SMART, that's a community, and I can't think of what the acronym stands for. You do have AA, you have NA, you have, there's MARA, I think that's Medicaid Assisted, Recovery Anonymous, that's for individuals who are on medicated assisted treatment. They take Suboxone or methadone, as a part of their treatment. I mean, it's so many different things. There are communities on social media. There are, I think someone joined and said that they joined from Meetup. There's so many just different groups out here. And I just didn't know that until I kind of got into this world again. That's that piece that, addiction can, again, you're thinking that you're by yourself, and you're not, in that stigma. You're afraid to talk about it. Like, what if I share this with someone? Are they gonna look at me like I'm crazy? But yeah, there's, it's so many different resources out, out there for anyone who wants to, take that step. For me, I think, again, I don't go to the meetings as much now, but it's a lot of support, in the rooms. There's a lot of support in the rooms.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite thing about working with, is it clients or patients individually, or what is it that you enjoy the most?
Well, okay, so just to kind of get into a little bit more detail about what it actually is that I do, for my everyday job, is that, I manage funding for providers who service individuals, and I'm breaking it down as slowly as I can because it seems like a lot, but it'll make sense once I'm done. So I manage funding for providers who provide substance use services to members in the community, right? So these members are either uninsured or underinsured, which means that they either have to utilize state funding, to receive these services, or either Medicaid. So they're either uninsured or underinsured, and so they can use, I manage the money to make sure that these providers are providing services, to these members, and I support them, as providers, making sure that they have what they need. And I also make sure, I'm almost like an accountability partner, but I'm also making sure that the members, are also being taken care of. And one of the connections that I always make clear when I speak with people is, providers, especially, when they can get a little frustrated about maybe payment, or not getting paid for claims and things of that nature, is that I let them know right off the bat. It's like, not only do I have a professional connection to this work, I have a personal connection to this work. I have been the provider, I have been the provider, and I have been the member who needed services, right? And I am now on this side. So I'm always going to push and fight, for this particular community. It's a very vulnerable population who I believe, just like anyone else, deserves access to quality health care.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Boy, are we glad that you're in our corner, Kimberly. Yes, yes, powerful stuff. Yeah.
for sure.
What ways have your overall well-being improved since you've overcome addiction? And I know that may seem kind of obvious, but maybe there's some examples in there that we hadn't thought of?
That has improved my, can you repeat that again? What has improved my,
In what ways has your overall well-being improved
gotcha.
since you've
Oh my
overcome?
goodness. So, I mean, so many different ways. I work out, which is huge for me. I've always been pretty athletic, but the working out is huge. I mean, it's just kind of like my holistic approach um to life now. You know, I have to make sure that my mind, my body, my spirit, and everything is, you know, centered. And so whether that's, like I said, working out, eating healthy,
Mm-hmm.
watching what I'm reading, paying attention to the type of information that I'm ingesting.
Yeah.
I hadn't
And
thought
I
about
just,
the reading. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, the reading. And then like like I said, I just recently did the social media fast, and I did it for 30 days. And I told my business coach, I think I was a little bit too excited. I was like, I'll do 6 months. And then I was like, no, let's do 30 days. And like that, I mean, it did wonders. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Sometimes, you know, with social media, I mean, obviously there are pros to it, but it can be cons.
Hmm.
If like for me, I mean, just the same information coming, just you're
Mm-hmm.
seeing the same information over and over and over again. And so now that as I'm going through my feed, I'm clearing out certain things that I don't need to see, adding stuff that I want to see, kind of curating the feed that I want to see. I either want to laugh,
Yeah.
I want to learn, or I want,
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like it's one of those, I want to be inspired, you know.
Yes.
Like I
Absolutely.
don't want to get caught up in the gossip, even though some of these reality shows can be entertaining, kind of takes you out of your life, but like, you know, you have to ask yourself why. And again, this comes to that recovery piece. You having these conversations. Why are you so engulfed in someone else's life who you don't know? You are wasting
Right.
time. You are like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? You're not accomplishing your
Right.
goals. They're not thinking about you. And so you have those conversations with yourself. Just being really intentional
Mm-hmm.
about things, you know,
Yeah.
and that would be an example
Yeah.
of the social media fast.
It's
So
toxic thoughts are just as bad as
yeah.
toxic substances, right? Or maybe
Right,
worse, right? Because the body does what the mind tells it. So what we're feeding
right,
Yeah.
our brain is going to feed our lifestyle, and
right,
everything around us. So yeah.
right. And the creativity piece was
Hmm.
being stunted too. Again, like that's about me curating my time feed. As the creator, the creative director of mental health influence, and I know we'll probably get to that later, but like it can, depending on what you got on your feed, it can really stunt your creativity. And so you want to, you know, like I said, be intentional and making sure that you recognize like this isn't good for me. This isn't good.
Wow. But you
Yeah.
have to be strong to stick to it, I think. And you've kind of already talked about how you prioritize your self-care and your mental health in your daily life. What does a morning look like for you? Do you have some routines that you've put in place that kind of helps keep you on track? I know if I don't know if it's just human nature. Rita, maybe you can answer this. I don't know if it's just human nature to want to fall into routines, but it seems like all of us kind of have a little routine, even if we don't call it that. um, so do you have some routines that kind of keep you on the straight and narrow, so to speak?
Yeah, for me, you know, both my parents were in the military, and so
Okay.
there is certainly value in structure for me,
Hmm.
right? The same thing with me working for the government, and even though you know, in our department, like sometimes I write processes and things like that. The point that I'm trying to get to is that yes, there is value in structure, and I do have a routine. Um, yes, wake up, making sure that I get enough sleep, you know, and sometimes what that may look like 7 hours, 6 or 7 hours for me. Um, get up. I try to get my workout in. I work out at Orange Theory. That's a pretty small gym. I think most people would probably consider the workouts kind of intense, but
Hmm.
that's my routine. I gotta, you know, make sure that at least I'm getting enough sleep, and I'm getting up and I'm getting my workout in. And so another thing that I do as far as And that's just a wake up piece, but there are small things that I'm learning to do that's not my, I have poor sleep hygiene, and that's how, then that would be like going to sleep with my phone and
Okay.
not, looking at social media or anything that, and my doctor was like, well, of course you can't go to sleep. You're looking at stuff that is like, it has your mind going.
Right, right.
Or I can check my phone. I can do meetings and everything from my phone, and checking my emails from work, things like that, like having to stop doing stuff like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's a routine, but there are things that I kind of had to kind of put a halt on, either halt or start, one of the two things. So
Okay.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is the biggest insight that you've gained through the recovery process?
Gosh, I know, I feel like a broken record. The community piece, like it's
Okay.
just, you just cannot do this alone. Like you just cannot do this alone. We need each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That comes for all aspects of health, right?
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
just mental.
Mhm.
yeah, yep. We need each other. Even like
Yeah.
in Orange Theory, for me, that workout, it's like family. It's a small
Yeah.
community. It's just
Mhm.
like family,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you'd be surprised, like sometimes when you just start talking or telling your story, um, you find these connections, these small connections, and when you're communicating with people. And I think one of the other things that I did learn about myself is I used to think that I was extroverted, and I'm totally not an extrovert. I am, and alcohol will make you think like you're just the life of the party, but I am a total introvert. I enjoy being um, by myself, being alone. And I do have to make sure that I'm balancing that out, right? Because it can
Mhm.
go from being wanting to be alone and spending me time to isolation. And so we want to make
Yeah.
sure that we're not touching on isolation.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are the insights. What I'm feeling is real. That's another thing. I learned I struggle with grieving, and then I learned during this journey that grieving is a lifelong process. Sometimes it gets better with um, time, right? And so I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going through this situation. Why am I still thinking about this? Why haven't I gotten over it? And it's like, and in that thinking, I was thinking that I was crazy. And it's like, no, you're not crazy. Like it can be a lifelong process depending on, maybe what it is.
Mhm.
So those things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So those kind of things. Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanted to hear about the mental health influencer. Tell me about that.
Okay, so the mental health influencer it is an e-commerce store, and I'd love to put that in the chat.
Sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Make sure that you click everyone so that everyone in the audience can see it.
Okay, hold on. Um, mental health influencer. Hold on, I'm trying to do two things. I think multitasking is overrated. Hold on, let me
Yep.
just
I get it. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. You're good.
Did I do this right? Is it HT? I always forget how. I'm sorry, you guys.
No worries.
I'm not sure if I did that right. Hold on.
Well, while you're looking for that,
Yeah.
I wanted to share too one resource that I talk to my patients and clients about when, I see that they are drinking too much, and especially they come to me for help with weight loss. And but they're drinking 4 glasses of wine, and every other night, and they, they're having a hard time putting the pieces together and understanding that that's playing a significant role. So for people who are really not yet, like kind of know there's a problem, but they're not willing to start to address it, I'll refer them to a website called Rethinking Drinking. Um,
Oh.
and the long thing, it's rethinkingdrinking.niaaa. It basically comes from the nih.gov. But
Okay.
it's a really great website because it talks about like guidelines for drinking,
Mm-hmm.
how to see the signs of a problem that you may have, because people most at that stage don't think they really have a problem. getting tools on how to make changes. They talk about portion sizes of alcoholic beverages because, you know, there's people will say all the time, but I only have one drink. But that one drink is really like 5 ounces of a hard liquor. So that's 5 drinks, you know, but it's one glass. So they consider it one drink. So
Mhm.
I just wanted to share that's another great resource for anybody who, you know, wants to just look at that on their own, who's not ready to reach out to other people yet, but it's a great way to just look and see, okay, maybe do I have signs of a problem? I think there's a quiz that you can take too with signs of that. So that's another really a great resource for people to check out.
Okay, I've not heard of that website. I was writing it down.
Yeah.
You said it's rethinking drinking. Is it .com?
I'll put it in the chat. It's dot NIAAA dot NIH.gov. I'll put it in the chat. But I see you have yours up now, the mental health
Yes.
influencer
Yeah, but
dot
I don't know if
IO.
that link is, I don't know if that link really worked, but that is, I really liked, oh, there it is. Now the link I just
There
put
it
in,
is.
because you
Yes.
can click on it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that, the rethinking
And as
drinking.
you gals are putting that in the chat, your links, when I do the replay of this particular video, I will also put those links in the replay so that folks that
Okay,
are listening
perfect.
to the replay can just look at the description of the call and you'll find those links there. So I'll make sure that I put those in as well.
Okay, I would like to add that to my, I have a resources page on my website.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really love that.
Yep.
I mean, because it's a, you know, it's like a private thing. They can do it on their own if they don't feel
Mm-hmm.
comfortable going out in front of, you know, going to see anyone about it. Maybe they can do some small changes at home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. For me, it was clear that I had an issue. I think when you start having the physical consequences, the legal consequences, some of those things were very, very, it was clear that I had a problem. I think that one of the saying I'm going to stop for a week or a month and then start, you know, if you can't stop it for a certain amount of time, then, you know, those are usually signs, you know what I mean? I don't have, I just don't have any friends that would, because they don't have an issue with drinking. So I mean, that can get pretty tricky, but even if they're thinking about it, then I think that it's worth taking a deeper look into to kind of figure out, you know, what that's about. Are you drinking to relax and have a good time, or are you drinking to escape from some type of reality or something that's happening in your life? That those would be some of the things that I would kind of look further into. But I really liked it, this rethinking drinking
Yeah.
website. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm looking at your website now. So it's really a merchandise website. So you make
Yes.
graphic t-shirts and what's your favorite one and why? You have a whole bunch of beautiful ones on here.
So just a little bit about Mental Health Influencer. It's an e-commerce store that solely focuses on stigma, upfront, bold, quirky messaging that is either going to get you to join in on conversation, ask me about the shirt, or it may make you uncomfortable. If it makes you uncomfortable, that is just as great to me as if it makes you laugh or smile or think about it, right? Because at least the conversation is happening, whether it's outward or inward, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's so many. I love them all so much. Some of the ones that are just like really the crazy meds made me sane. That's one
Uh-huh.
of my favorites, mainly because growing up, they used to refer to in my household, they used to refer to people who took medication as the crazy people or the crazy meds. And one of the things that, you know, kind of frustrate me a little bit about recovery in recovery spaces is that you don't get to tell people what their recovery journey should look like, right? You don't get to tell me what works and what doesn't work. And I know that in a lot of the spaces where people who are recovering from opioids, a lot of times in certain rooms, they can't get sponsors because there are people who won't sponsor them because they think that the medication that they're taking on is the same as the drug. There are some spaces, not all the rooms think this. There's some people think that if you take medication, then you're not really clean or sober. And so you have people who will stop taking medication. Some of these medications you need to be weaned off of because of the stigmas that are associated even in the recovery community. And so, you have to really be careful about that. And, I also understand the pharmaceutical industry, but in my case, it's the lesser of two evils. Either I'm going to take medication or I'm going to be at somebody's bar. What I mean, you know what I mean? Like that, that's my decision. And so if the crazy meds is what it wants to be, then that's what it'll be. But the crazy meds make me sane. I'm not in jail and I'm not in a car driving drunk. So do with that what you will. So that's one of my favorite ones. Another one is prayer and therapy can coexist.
I like that.
There's, I think, especially growing up in the Black community, I think one of the things that, and this is not within the Black community either, but just I think people may not recognize that addiction, it's a brain disease, right? No one will wake up and choose this. And I think that sometimes people look at it as a moral failing. I also believe that, there's this conflict between the faith-based community and the science-based community. And I just think those two things can coexist. And what I'm seeing now, what I'm learning, and I'm loving as we make this progress, we still have a ways to go, but you're starting to see clergymen who have their licensed clinician addiction specialists or mental health professionals who are also pastors and who also they understand. And so when you see us moving in that kind of direction, it warms my heart, right? I know that as somebody who believes in a power that's greater than me, I do know that prayer cannot just solely be the only thing. It has to be. Treatment can be all encompassing.
Right. The Bible says faith without works is dead, right?
Absolutely.
God gave you the professionals. They're all there.
Right. Yes.
That's why he put them here, because they're trained to help you. Just like you'll go to your medical doctor if you got high blood pressure, you got to take care of your mental health too. That's why we have so many amazing practitioners. I think that's so important as well. I go to a predominantly Black church and we have a whole mental wellness ministry. And
that is just, oh my God, amazing.
And we have special events, especially right before the holidays, because that's a really hard time for people mentally. And we'll have like open panel discussion and allow people to talk. And we have a whole list of resources for local practitioners. So I think that's really, really important. And I want to say one of my favorite t-shirts that you have too, I like sobriety as a flex.
Oh my God, that is actually, I can't believe I forgot that one.
Yeah, it's really taking, like really owning it, like and being proud of it and not afraid, oh, I have addiction, but like, yeah, it's right. I did that. And
that is one of my,
you can too.
That is, and that's the message. And again, you're not alone. That's that thing I just keep saying, you're not alone. And this is something to be proud of, and we're not going to be ashamed, and we're not going to be hiding and cowardly, and all these different things. Like, this is a big deal.
Well, and what I really like about your website is that you are bringing it out into the mainstream, and because there are so many folks that are affected by all types of addictions. And so by bringing it mainstream, I think it does bring it front and center, that we can talk about it. And it can become not the normal, but the conversation about it can become normal.
That's what it's about. And there are, it's merchandise, it's designs and phrases that I have that it's not just for people who are in addiction, but it does speak to addiction and mental health, or just in life, right? Like the change requires change. That's one of them. There's the other one, like my testimony is lit. Like for me, that's
Mm,
instead of being ashamed of what you've gone through, like, listen, I've been through hell and
yes,
back, and I am
yes.
still here. My
Amen.
testimony is lit, and
Amen.
I have lived long enough to be
Mhm.
able to be in front of you all and whoever's
Right.
watching to tell you my story, and that you
Amen.
too can overcome this thing. You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
so, like, that kind of messaging. There's another one that I did with the suicide campaign, and it was I have check on and I have strong friends crossed out, and it's check on everyone. Let's just check on everyone. Just literally, let's just
Mm,
ask people, how are you doing? And be
yeah.
intentional. And are you really concerned about like how people are doing? Like take the time. Again, it just goes back to that community. And I see you, I hear you,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So I'm glad you brought. I completely when
Mhm.
you, I don't know where
Yeah.
we're gonna get to mental, but I just eventually I would transition out of. My thinking is that I would transition out to and do this speaking and talking, working on writing some things, and just kind of getting more out more in the community. I mean, we think even though I work in this field, you feel like you still know because I'm in it every day that the conversations are just still not
Mhm.
Yeah.
happening
Yeah.
enough.
And I just have to say, the population that really worries me most is our teens right
That
now
is, oh my
too.
God, that is
Yeah,
that.
I mean, ever since not just the pandemic was huge and being away from school and friends, but there's so much drug use and vaping and, peer pressure and the social media world. It's like they're dealing with so much stuff that we never
Yeah.
had to deal with. Kathy and I, you're younger than we are, Kimberly, but we were just playing on the streets with all the kids in the neighborhood. But there's so much isolation. Everybody's behind the screens. No one talks to each other. They don't even know how to talk to each other. And all they can do is text, and everything is behind the screen. The socialization is lost. And that's the population currently and of course, because I have a teenager, but that worries me a lot. So
Mhm.
what do you have to
And that,
say to that? And like,
oh my God.
where can these kids go?
So that is one of the things, another component of my role and where I work. We do a big part of my role is prevention. I think one of the questions was what was frustrating about your field, and you speaking to that is one of them, the lack of the resources that are available for teens. There's a shortage in staffing in training in this field. Um, but it is tough finding places for treatment for adolescents. It is a gaps in services throughout the country. But I know for sure North Carolina, where I live,
You
and
do?
it's
So do
tough.
I.
And so you let people, I'm sorry,
So do I. What part?
I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Okay, I'm in Wake Forest outside of Raleigh.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
My mother's side of the family's from Wilson. It's like 45 minutes
Yes,
east of
I know
Raleigh. Yeah.
exactly where that is. Yep.
Hmm.
Country.
Yeah, yeah,
I
for
love it.
sure.
I
Yeah.
love it.
I had to adjust. I've lived in New York City for so long.
Okay. I'm from
But
New
so,
York originally.
okay, okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, that is one of the, and I tell people all the time, like addiction, it doesn't start at 18.
Mhm.
And that's that piece about the education, and we can through prevention and intervention. And if we can start having these conversations, right? But with stigma, and I know you guys can relate to this, these conversations about sexual education being taught in schools, right? So you have the people, if you talk about sexual education, and it's going to want to make the kids have sex. But then you have the people, if you talk about sexual education, then at least they can make, educated decisions, right? So at least they have the information. The same thing
Mhm.
applies when you're talking about addiction. How do you have these conversations? And so that's another project that I'm working on. How do you have these conversations about addiction and mental health with kids? But that is the frustrating piece, Rita. That's just it's a lack in resources and trying to
Yeah.
find support for these kids and safe spaces where they can have these conversations. You think about rural areas, there's so many barriers.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we do have some treatment facilities here in North Carolina, but it's not many. There's not
Yeah.
many. I think there may be one in Port, I believe that's in Greenville, North Carolina. But
Yeah,
it's not a lot.
the access and the affordability is
Yeah.
tough. I mean, it's great that we have so many people that can do telehealth visits now, which is very helpful. But I will share another resource that I refer people to also is psychologytoday.com.
Mhm.
And that's a great website for people who are looking for a practitioner, because you can search by the city that you live in, if you want a male or female practitioner, if you we want to input the type of insurance that you have, so you can see who takes your insurance. Then you keep narrowing the profile down, and then you can search by people who work with substance abuse or cognitive behavioral therapy or adolescence addiction. So you can pick the provider that is most in line with what you need. So that's a really great resource for people to go to as well. psychologytoday.com. So
Yeah, and I have, like I said, I have resources on my page as well. The links are at the bottom, where it should say substance use, and I'm sure I don't have the website out, but yeah, I have resources up there as well, and you can find similar information in
great.
order to get help. But there are
Kimberly,
resources. Go
what
ahead.
made you do the website? It's amazing. And what made you decide that you wanted to do merchandise like that?
Well, for me, it was just
I mean, how did that get started? Did you?
like just for me, it was during the pandemic.
Okay,
Yeah, it was during the pandemic, and then it was just something that like it just like I have these ideas, like just let's do it. You know what I mean?
okay,
Like I'm
okay.
working, yeah, I have another shirt that another design that I have several designs that I'm working on that I'm gonna update. It's called like the social boundary. It's gonna be the social boundary collection. And one of the designs now is it says, "Bruh, I don't drink." And the funny thing about this is that one of the things about alcohol is because it's such a huge part of our social culture. You tell somebody you don't drink, I mean, it is just
Mhm.
like, well, why don't
Really?
you drink? And why
Yeah.
don't you drink? And how
Yeah.
long do you like? And
Hmm.
why? And are you taking antibiotics? And are you pregnant? And why don't, it's just all these things as opposed to if you say, I don't eat seafood. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you know what I mean? Like it's just very different. And so it's these social boundaries. It's like, dude, do I have to like tell you my whole life story about me being an addiction? I don't drink, full stop.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
like that's one of the designs. It's like, bruh, I
Hmm.
don't drink. And so that's one of or then I'm like hydration heroes for people who just drink water. Like I have all these different things in my head that I have to do with this collection. But yeah, just these ideas that come into my head, and I like playing with the different colors and um things like that. But yeah, I have another business too that I don't really speak about as much like on these particular forums, but it's a social media consulting agency where I work with providers who they solely work with people who have substance use disorder, but it's called the Left Brain Solution. And so just working with them and making sure that they have the correct language and they're representing their business correct, like making sure they don't have language like addicts, say someone who is in long-term recovery, or saying things like dirty urine, someone who tested positive for substance use, just that
Hmm.
kind of thing, and making sure that they're representing their business in that way. But yeah, like I mean, and who knew that I'd be working for, I remember when I went to treatment before, this lady told me that I would never be able to get a job. Why would you be going to school for public administration? You never be able to get a job working for the government. I wish I could find her today and say, you were wrong.
Hmm.
Yep, absolutely.
And my
I'm
whole
going to
story is what I do. Like my story is I have my job because of my life
Right.
story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm going to share my screen for just a moment, because when I share my screen, look at this. Look at all of the resources you
yeah.
have at
And
the
these are all
bottom.
clickable links too. Yeah. These are
Look at
all
that. Tons and tons and tons of resources there. That is amazing.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's a
that's
smart, yeah,
powerful.
find a meeting, all those different things. And
Yes,
so,
that is so powerful. And that is, folks, for those of you that are listening, that's at the bottom, at the very bottom of her website. You can see all of that, all of those. Yeah. Abby said she has to run. She says, Kimberly, your story is amazing. She said
bye,
you're such
Abby.
inspiration, and thanks for all of the resources. So yes, Abby, thank you for being with us. Sorry, Abby's microphone didn't work, so she couldn't chat with us, but thank you for being with us, Abby.
Oh, good.
This has been wonderful. So much great information. I really appreciate you, Kimberly. Gosh, how can we help you? How can we help promote you and what it is that you do? How can we bring awareness to your message?
Oh my goodness. Please, please, please share my website, post it on your pages. All of my social media handles are there. Active on mainly on IG and Facebook. But yeah,
Okay.
support the store. Um, Great gifts for holidays, birthdays. But yeah, share my page, and again, my social media handles are up there. If you know anyone who needs a speaker, a motivational speaker, please again direct them to the website. I would love to be able to get into these rooms and have these very frank and candid conversations, as much as I possibly can. I know that all of my life experiences that I've gone through are not in vain,
Amen.
and my testimony is lit. And I
Mm-hmm.
am supposed to be out here telling my story,
Right.
turning this pain, again, another cliche, turning this pain into purpose. That's what it's
Right.
all about,
That's right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yes,
We're here.
yes.
We're here to serve.
So I
Always.
am recording this, so I will actually, I have your email, Kimberly. I will actually send over to you the replay links, and feel free to use those however you wish, in full or in part. If you want to use them on any of your websites or any of your social media, you're welcome to do that. And I will show you all the places that this podcast will be listed. And then as our free gift to you, we're actually going to include you in our speakers cabinet. And so hopefully other folks can find you there when they are looking for a guest. And so again, I just want to say thank you for your message, and
Thank
thank you for
you.
being on today. I really appreciate you. And Rita, as always, I appreciate you.
You
Rita.
too, sir.
Yeah, we had a few at the beginning of the call that wanted to disrupt our call, but we got it handled.
Yeah. So yeah.
So I
Yeah.
apologize if I seemed a little
No, I saw
preoccupied
some
a
of it.
couple
Look,
of
no,
times.
listen, yeah, I saw it too. And then I popped the chat out and moved it over to the
I'm so
side.
glad you
I
Good.
did.
just
Yes.
said, yeah, no, I was
Yep,
like,
good for you.
we
Yep.
won't stop
So
this message. We
Amen.
won't stop it.
Amen. That's
yes.
right.
So again, thank you so much for being on, and I will follow up with an email with everything probably sometime tomorrow. But thank you so much, and Rita, thank you, and thank you
Thank
for
you.
helping me today.
Oh my God, you guys
And
have
I
been
just
great. Thank you so much.
I
This has
just
been
want
good.
to share, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, Kimberly. And I just want to share one little plug at the end here.
Okay.
I am getting ready to do another free webinar on how to reverse your type 2 diabetes. So it's diabetes reversal, my formula webinar. So if anybody's interested in getting on that, just shoot me an email, rita@ritabrewer.com with the word webinar, and I will get you on my waiting list. It's going to be coming up very soon with a date, and would love to have you join me.
Now, is there a link already on your website?
Not yet, because I have to plan the date first.
Okay.
So which I have to look at the calendar and see exactly when I'm going to do it. I was just doing some updating of my
Okay.
presentation. So it's coming soon. The presentation is all updated, ready to go. Now I'm just going to pick a date. And yeah, so just follow me, either social media or my website. You can contact me there and just let me know you want to get on the waiting list. It's coming
Perfect,
soon.
perfect. And I'll put everyone's contact information in the replay. So wherever this video is replayed, they will be able to connect with any of the three of us.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Thank
All
you
right.
so much. And save the date. We're on every month. And I always have to go back and look at my calendar and make sure that I say the right one, because I
Third
have
Monday.
third. Thank
Monday
you.
at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yes. Third Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Save the date. It's the same Zoom code every
Okay.
month. You don't have to keep registering to get in. All you have to do is just go to the your Zoom app and put in the code and you'll be on. So thank you so much. And we will see everyone next time.
All right. Bye. Thanks for
Bye-bye.
having me.
Bye.
Bye.